Have you ever stood in a supermarket line, listening to that soft beep, 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 and thought, this sound basically runs the entire economy? That tiny noise, born out of a 1940s idea and a 1970s experiment with a pack of gum, and doesn't just speed up your checkout, it quietly records what you buy, when you buy, where you buy, and thanks to loyalty programs, who you are, feeding one of the biggest data machines on the planet ever. Tonight, we're going to unpack how a single barcode scan went from cool new tech at the register to every grocery trip becomes a line in your personal data profile. It all started back in the late 1940s. A graduate student named Norman Joseph Woodland heard a grocery executive complaining about how cashiers had to manually key in prices and product information for every single item. Woodland became obsessed with solving this problem. He literally went down to Miami Beach, sat in the sand, and started drawing patterns to represent information. Inspired by Morse code, he stretched the dots and dashes into long and short lines, eventually designing a circular bullseye barcode that could be scanned from any angle. Woodland and his colleague Bernard Silver filed a patent for their classifying apparatus and method in 1949, and it was officially granted in 1952. The idea was brilliant, but the world just wasn't ready for it yet. There were no affordable lasers, no cheap computers, and no practical way to scan this pattern at scale in a busy store. For almost 2 decades, the barcode lived in what researchers later called the idea phase real. Patented, but basically unworkable in the real world. Woodland and Silver even sold their patent for just $15,000 to Philco, and it later ended up with the electronics giant RCA. Then, the 1960s happened. The technology finally started to catch up. Lasers were invented. Computers began to shrink in size and cost. The grocery industry realized that if they could just standardize product codes, machines could finally do the hard work. In 1970, an ad hoc committee of the grocery industry was formed to hammer out a universal system. By the early 1970s, an IBM engineer named Jor Lower helped redesign Woodland's original circular idea into the rectangular Universal Product Code, or code we now know as UPC code, the now familiar black bars and 12 digits you see on almost everything you buy today. The real first beat moment, the one that changed everything, came on June 26, 1974. At a Marsh supermarket in Troy, Ohio. At 8:01 in the morning, a pack of Wrigley's Juicy Fruit Chewing Gum became the first retail product ever scanned at a checkout using a UPC barcode. The scanner itself was a high-tech helium neon laser system buried in the counter. It reflected light off the gum's barcode into sensors that told the cash register what the item was and how much it cost. At the time, it just looked like a neat trick for efficiency. No one standing in that line was thinking this little beep is going to help build a global data infrastructure and change how companies watch what we buy. But that's exactly what it did. The adoption started slowly, then it went vertical. Economic historian Emmett Baskers research shows that within 10 years of that first installation, about a third of U.S. supermarkets had adapted to barcode scanners. Customers saw shorter lines and cashiers who looked at screens more than at price tags. But inside the system, something much bigger was happening. Every single beep represented a precise digital record: product code, price, time of day, checkout lane, and store location. By the 1980s, these point-of-sale systems, or POS systems, stopped being just fancy cash registers and started becoming full-blown information systems. Early computer-based setups in the 80s and 90s ran software that could track inventory, manage customer data, and generate detailed sales reports, doing far more than just ringing up totals. The impact was huge. One major study found that early barcode scanners increased grocery store labor and productivity by over 4% in the first few years after installation. Another paper traced how, as scanner adoption spread, grocery prices fell on average by about 0.75% in cities where they reached critical mass. That might sound tiny per item, but it's huge when you scale it across millions of purchases. Barcodes weren't just about speed. They were quietly making stores leaner, cheaper, and vastly more data-aware. Big retailers saw the power of this early on. Walmart started using UPC barcodes at its checkouts in 1983, specifically to better manage its inventory by feeding scan data directly into its central systems. Scanning POS data let Walmart track which products sold, in which stores, and how fast-turning checkout lanes into real-time sensors for its entire supply chain. In fact, Walmart became one of the first companies to use barcodes on essentially 100% of its products by the early 80s. This gave it a live view of its inventory that its competitors simply didn't have. That data edge helped fuel Walmart's rise and gave the world a preview of the data-first retail mindset that we now take for granted. And this is where the story shifts from being about retail technology to being about your data. In basic database terms, each supermarket scan is a transaction record, a basket of items linked to a time, a store, and a total amount. Classic data mining examples talk about exactly this kind of data. Each row in the database is a shopping trip. Each column is an item or an attribute. An analyst can ask questions like, what combinations of products tend to be purchased together? This idea is called market basket analysis, and it's the foundation for all those stories you hear about strange product pairings and clever shelf placements. Whether the specific beer and diaper story is an urban legend or a real case study, the principle is real. Checkout data can reveal non-obvious patterns and drive decisions about store layout and promotions. But the moment stores started linking those transactions to individual customers, the game changed completely. In the 1990s and 2000s, card-based loyalty programs exploded, largely because scanners made it easy to attach a customer ID to every single beep. Academic work on loyalty programs points out that the rise of computers and scanners in the 90s made it practical to capture, store, and analyze individual purchase histories. As a result, loyalty memberships in the US surged from about 973 million in the year 2000 to well over 1.3 billion by 2006. And it didn't stop there. That number more than tripled again by 2014, hitting 3.3 billion memberships. That's an average of more than 10 per person. All of that growth sits on one foundation: barcodes and POS systems that can log every item in every basket and tie it directly to your card. Modern retail tech companies openly sell this as a feature. Barcode and PA's vendors talk about how scanning can cut checkout times by up to 40%, to prevent stockouts by syncing inventory, and, crucially, enable instant customer recognition and personalized promotions when combined with loyalty programs. Industry case studies highlight how retailers use these purchase data streams to improve customer lifetime value, tune promotions, and decide which items to keep, drop, or move on the shelf. In other words, that casual beep when you buy a box of cereal is being fed into optimization algorithms trying to predict what else you might be buying next week, and what discount will make you buy just a little more. Sometimes, the scale of that surveillance pops into public view. A 2025 investigation by Consumer Reports into Kroger's loyalty program found that the chain was using detailed purchase histories and demographic data to build income predictor models on roughly 63 million customers. It was then selling access to those insights through a precision marketing arm. When one shopper used privacy laws to request his data, he discovered it had been shared with more than 50 companies and contained numerous errors, raising serious concerns about surveillance pricing and discriminatory discounts. Kroger defended the practice as a way to serve relevant offers, but the key point is simple. None of this would exist without decades of barcodes and scanners, turning anonymous cash register chaos into structured, searchable transaction histories. When you zoom out, that little beep becomes part of a global infrastructure. The standards body GS1 US, which manages UPC codes in the US, describes the UPC as one of the most successful standards in history, noting that billions of barcodes are scanned daily worldwide. That's billions of scans every single day across retail, logistics, healthcare, and more. All built on the same basic pattern that Norman Woodland drew in the sand all those years ago. That same pattern now tracks airline bags, hospital patients, prescription drugs, warehouse pallets, and online orders. The barcode scanner industry alone is now valued in the billions of dollars. So the next time you stand in line and hear that little beep, remember what it really is. It's not just a price check. It's a data event, a tiny structured message about what moved, where it moved, when it moved, and often who bought it. It's feeding systems that decide everything from which products get shelf space to which coupons land in your inbox. The first scan in 1974 was just a pack of gum in Ohio. Today, that same basic code underpins a global nervous system of commerce and surveillance, quietly logging your life one grocery trip at a time. Thanks for watching, and if you found this interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives.